This is the Louie T Network.
I'm ready for some football. I don't know about you. Who else could it be but your man Louie? Yeah.
Overtime! So we head to overtime.
Who else could it be? Me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to Thursday Night Football Overtime. Green Bay Packers, Chicago Bears, the Bears, renewing their rivalry. They showed the stats of just how airtight close this rivalry has been over the decades. And it's one that you can expect to see on some form of primetime television at some point during the course of the season. Similar to Redskins, Cowboys, you're going to see it on some type of primetime outlet at some point in the season, whether it be Thursday, Sunday, Monday, Thanksgiving. You're going to see it somewhere. You can pretty much bank on Packers and Bears, Ravens and Steelers, Cowboys and Redskins are the three rivalries that are timeless, that you will see at some point during the course of the season on primetime television. We get Bears, Packers on Thursday night in week 4. And this was an interesting game coming in. I thought I knew what was going to occur. However, I didn't know how it was going to occur. Okay, I figured the Packers would find a way to get it done. I just didn't know how. Was this game going to be close? Were the Bears going to hang tough? Were the Packers going to blow them out like they eventually did in this game? I didn't know how the outcome would be reached, but I figured the Packers would find a way to get it done. But the reason that I had a little bit of a pause going into this game is because both teams easily could have come into this game at 2-1. Look at the Bears and how they got to this game at 1-2. But both of their home games were against two teams that a lot of us, and I can't speak for you, but I know myself, consider Super Bowl potential teams, at least contenders in their respective conferences. Falcons, of course, who represented the NFC in the Super Bowl in 2016. They started out red hot 3-0, one of two undefeated teams in the season thus far in 2017. Could have easily have lost to the Bears. Should have lost to the Bears team in week 1 at Soldier Field. They have an ugly showing in their first road game on the road versus Tampa Bay the following week. Then follow that up with an improbable win versus Pittsburgh last week. So they could have easily been 2-1. You look at the Packers, they're 2-1 coming into this game. They could have easily been 1-2 in this football game. Week 1, they beat Seattle, a team that has struggled to score in this young season, but it was not pretty by any stretch of the imagination. A big call in that game, recalling a pick 6, really changed the outcome of that football game. Packers might have still won anyway, but that changes the whole dynamic of that football game early, calling back that pick 6. But they get the win in that football game, 17-9. They turn around the following week. They get their breaks beat off by the Atlanta Falcons in a rematch of the NFC Championship game. So they go to 1-1 on the season. They were down 14 points in the fourth quarter of their recent home game versus Cincinnati last week. Easily could have lost that game. The Bengals simply could not put the Packers away. Packers come back, tie the game up, send it to overtime, ultimately win. For Aaron Rodgers, and this was hard for me to fathom, first career overtime win. He had previously been 0-7 in overtime games until winning last week in week 3 in overtime versus the Cincinnati Bengals to get the Packers to 2-1. So the Packers could have easily been 1-2. The Bears could have easily been 2-1. And for that reason, and the fact that it's family business, NFC North family business, you know how the family do it. If these two teams said they ain't did it, then they ain't did it. But if they did, that's family business. With that being said, I kind of said the Bears have a shot. Packers haven't looked all that impressive this season. Had a ton of injuries to start this season, but doesn't matter. Got to find a way to get it done. That's what they did tonight. And in convincing fashion, we'll talk about Mike Glennon and in his prospects of continuing to be the starter for this football team, why I think it's the right decision to continue to allow him to start. And then of course, we'll talk Packers and now moving to 3-1 with an impressive 35-14 victory over the Bears. Now you get 10 days off, and it's a big 10 days for this Packers team because they need this rest desperately before they head into Big D to take on the Dallas Cowboys in a rematch of the NFC Divisional Round playoff classic that we saw last season. So they're going to need that time off. Hopefully you get at least one, if not both, of your tackles back for that football game. You're hoping to get at least one, if not two, of your running backs that you lost in this football game back for that game. A lot of guys out for the Packers. We'll talk about all those things and more when we get to the Packers side of things. But first, thank you for joining me. It's a late start, okay? Had a weather delay in this game that stopped the game for right around 45 minutes or so, close to an hour. Player safety always comes first. You saw the lightning. They showed it over and over again, the thunder and the lightning that was out there. Nasty storm passing over that stadium in Green Bay. A downpour, a little bit of a torrential downpour for a nice little 5-minute period there. They allowed that storm to pass. Players came back out, warmed up again, got back on the field. But that puts us at this 12:30 hour right now on the East Coast. And so it's a late start for us, but nonetheless, we forge on. And I thank you guys for coming in so late and still joining your man, Louie T. As I always tell you, even late, still great. And that's what we're putting forth tonight as this game finished up right around 12:25 or so in the Eastern time zone, 12:25 a.m. So in any event, thank you for joining me on this program. If you haven't already done so, subscribe to the Louie T Network for more great content in 2017 and beyond. Changing the game over here. I want you to help us do that by simply hitting the subscribe button and becoming a member of the Louie T Network. I have various social media platforms that I am a part of, that I have for you guys to be able to get in contact with me. And so use those social media platforms and follow me. Like my Facebook page, follow me on Twitter or Instagram. All of those are in the description down below. You can find those. Follow me, like me, all of those good things. You can donate to this channel as well via PayPal. That is also down below in the description. And so if you would like to help this channel really take the next step, donate if you can. It doesn't matter how big or how small. I will appreciate them all. And I thank those who have already donated. I can't thank you enough for those proceeds. And so with that being said, let's jump into this breakdown. And we're going to start with the Green Bay Packers, who were able to get the job done 35-14 in this football game. They got off to a very good start in this game. And that's what you do. And I've said this so many times. I sound like a broken record. But if you're a good football team and you expect to win and you're playing a team that is probably inferior to you, as in the case in this game, Packers are just talent-wise, they're just light years better than the Chicago Bears. It's just a fact. They have a lot more talent on that Packers team. They're pulling guys off the bench that might start for this Packers team or for that Bears team. Guys are dropping like flies, and they're just inserting other guys that are stepping in and getting the job done. And so you got to find a way to get on top of that team early and take the life out of them. Don't give them a chance to think that they can win the football game. The mistake that a lot of good teams make, like the Steelers did a week ago going into Soldier Field, is that they mess around and allow a team that probably isn't as good as them to feel like we can play with this team, we can beat this team, by allowing them to either take an early lead or gain early confidence in the game by scoring early and keeping the game close. The longer the game is close, the more confidence that inferior team has building, thinking that they can now steal this game. Packers took it to the Bears early. The first drive of the game, the Packers march it right down the field and cap it off with a beautiful touchdown on a run-pass option. It was supposed to be a run. Aaron Rodgers pulls it out of the belly of the back, throws it to Devontae Adams quickly. He's able to get in, and he starts serving up his teammates as they come into the line and he's serving them up. And they get on the board 7-0. Bears, you're thinking, okay, they need to respond here, or at least, at the minimum, put together a little bit of a drive, flip the field position if they can't get something out of that possession. They turn it over right away. Very first play from scrimmage, or first pass, I should say, from scrimmage. Mike Glennon is hit by Clay Matthews as he's trying to throw the football. And really, he had enough time to get rid of that ball. He went through about 3 or 4 different progressions. He's got to do something there. The internal clock must go off at that point. It didn't. And so he resets as he's about to throw it for what seems like the 3rd time. He gets hit, ball comes out, recovered by the Packers on that play. I want to say it was Jake Ryan who makes the recovery. And 2 or 3 plays later, the Packers are in the end zone again. This time, Randall Cobb is the recipient of the touchdown pass. I want to say it was 3 plays later because they were in danger of having to settle for a field goal after the first 2 plays did not work. And they get it in the end zone to Cobb, who was back in this game off of injury. Remember, he sustained an injury in that same Week 2 contest versus the Atlanta Falcons, where a lot of guys injured themselves, including Jordy Nelson, among the guys that went down in that game. So Nelson was able to come back last week, and now you get Cobb back this week. And so now you've got that full cluster of receivers, which is one of the better groups in all of the National Football League, together again. And Rodgers quickly takes advantage, getting Cobb involved into the end zone, and boom, just like that, it's 14-0. And at that point, I knew the Bears were in trouble in this football game. Can't make those types of mistakes on the road against a Packers team that's better than you. Let's face it, they're flat out better than this Bears team. And if they were going to have any chance of stealing a game here in Lambeau, they were going to have to keep the score close, and they were going to have to play mistake-free football. Right off the bat, they had done neither in this game, getting out to a 14-0 hole and deficit in this game. The Packers simply had them right where they wanted them after that start. Then the rain comes as the Bears are trying to mount a little bit of a drive, and they actually take the football down the field. They're aided with a penalty, and right where you think, okay, they're in scoring range. At worst, they're probably going to come away with a field goal attempt. Glennon is trying to change the protection, call out the mic. He lifts his leg, and Tony Romo pointed this out on the telecast. Once you lift your leg once, that guard is looking over to see. Once he sees it, he's going to slap that center to tell him, hey, you can snap the ball now. He's ready. And Glennon thought that, oh, they didn't see me raise my leg once, so I can go up, make some quick late protection switches, call out the mic once again, make sure everybody's on the same page, and then we'll go. And as he's walking up to approach the offensive line to call out the order, they snap the football. And it hits him right in the shin. And it's a really awkward play. You rarely see a fumble go forward. But it hits him right on the shin, bounces off of his shin, and projects over the line of scrimmage right to the Green Bay Packers, who have a gift given to them. Takes that scoring opportunity away. And at that point, I said, they're going to probably get blown out tonight. Those types of freaky things don't happen unless you're probably heading, and you're already down 14-0, and this is your 2nd turnover of the game. You're probably heading for an ass whooping at this point in the game. And I said, yeah, at this point, ice cold ass whooping hit. Ice cold ass whooping hit. It was a chilly night as the temperature kind of dropped in Lambeau. I said, yeah, they're heading for an ice cold ass whooping here. And that's exactly what happened. Then the rain came. Had the little weather delay. We come back onto the field. The Bears weren't able. They had the ball right around midfield. You're hoping, okay, maybe they can get something going. Nah, nothing in the works for the Bears. The Packers get the football back again right before the half. They're able to score again. This time, Jordy Nelson in the end zone. So everyone getting involved in the action. And at that point, it was either Jordy Nelson there or it was Aaron Jones there. I want to say it was Nelson for the first time. He would score again later on in the game, wide open. You can't get much more wide open than this. As a matter of fact, both of Jordy Nelson's touchdowns I don't know if you can be more wide open. One on a pick play on a slant, which was just beautifully run, and they've got to combo that off. You got to switch that. You can't allow the slant on the outside to cross face, and you try to get over the slant. You got to combo that off. The outside man should have stayed out there and took Jordy Nelson. The inside guy should have took the slant with Bennett. That's just a lack of communication between two defenders. Got to be better than that. And that's what happens with bad football teams. And those types of lacks of communication lead to easy scores. Nelson walks in. He catches another one in the corner of the end zone. I mean, literally, there's not a bear in sight. Easily 5 to 7 yards, the closest bear to him in the end zone. And Aaron Jones also gets in the end zone for his first career touchdown. Really got his first career snaps in this game. I don't think they expected to play him quite yet. If Montgomery was able to stay healthy, plus you still got the BYU back, Jamal Williams, I don't think Aaron Jones would have seen the field. But due to the 2 injuries to those players, he gets on the field and he makes the most of that opportunity, getting his first career NFL touchdown, and also christening himself to this Packers faithful with his first career Lambeau leap as well. So it was all Packers in this football game. At one point, it got as bad as 35-7 before the Bears were able to score a late touchdown and make it 35-14. So they dominated this football game. The Bears just simply couldn't get anything done. Defensively, you want to go to that side of football with this Packers football team. Nothing. They were allowed, were the Bears, to pass the football in this game. There was a little bit of success there, especially that drive right before the half where the Bears were able to get on the board in this game for the first time when they were down 21-0. Glennon needed that badly. We'll talk about that when we get on that side of things. But they were able to throw the football where the Bears, I think they were a lot of space. And really, it just came down to the Packers saying, look, we're not giving up anything cheap or deep. You know, we're going to make them work for everything that they get. The one opportunity they had to take a deep shot, it was a great play by the defensive back to stick his hands in there and rake the football out at the very last second, or else that would have been a big play down to about the 2 or 3 yard line. So for the most part, the Packers defensively just didn't give up anything big. They made Mike Glennon have to be perfect, make this offense have to be perfect, and they couldn't do that. They made a ton of mistakes. This game was penalty filled. Every time they had a good run, it was called back. Every time Tariq Cohen did anything, it was called back in this game. He had 2 good runs. Both were called back due to holding penalties. They could never really get the run game, and I thought Tony Romo did a really good job of pointing out that the Packers pretty much stayed in base defense a lot of the night in that 3-4 look with 7 guys basically in the box with the 8th defender sometimes creeping up to stop the run. They were blitzing off the edge with the safeties all night long, and they knew the Bears, in order for them to have success, they're going to have to run it successfully like they did last week versus the Pittsburgh Steelers, where they ran for over 200 yards. Packers weren't allowing that to happen tonight. That's why they were in their base so often and bringing up a safety as an 8th defender in the box for much of the night and daring the Bears to beat them through the air. And the Bears simply don't have enough talent, and the Packers know that. So they were comfortable being aggressive, over-aggressive to an extent in the run game and really holding the Bears down in the run game and forcing them to beat them through the air, which they're really not capable of doing right now with the weaponry that they have or a lack on that side of the football. So it was a really good night for the Green Bay Packers as they dominate this game 35-14 and get to 3-1 on the season. Their first win in the division this season as they go to 1-0 in the division, which is going to be huge because this division looks like it's going to be very tight this year with a good Lions football team and a good Vikings team as well. You go to the Bears side of things, and we're going to start offensively, obviously, with Mike Glennon in this offense because a lot of people were calling for Mitchell Trubisky tonight. They've been calling for him all season long. I don't agree with that. I've already voiced my opinion on that subject matter, but I will reiterate that again, that I don't believe Mitchell Trubisky needs to be put in a position to fail and fail miserably and lose confidence in the process. At some point, he's going to get in this season, and I'm fine with that. But it doesn't need to be this early. You don't need to, bail on the season, because once you put a young guy in, that says to the veterans, okay, we're not trying to win, we're building for the future. And I get that. And again, guys that are there are going to understand it, but it's still early in the season. I think Mike Glennon gives you the best opportunity to win. And so you go along with Glennon, and my whole thought process is if you can get Glennon to look serviceable, which is pretty tough to do with the lack of weapons because of what's transpired for this team this early in the season. You lose Victor Cruz to injury, and he didn't look all that great. They cut him in the offseason, in the preseason, but I thought if he was able to stay healthy, he probably would have been on this football team because you could use a guy like that. To me, I don't see any receivers out there stopping a guy like Victor Cruz from making his roster. Now, granted, Victor Cruz is not the same player that he was, say, 4 years ago before all the injuries took effect, but nonetheless, I look at this collection of receivers. Of course, Kevin White goes down. Who knows what the hell he would have been doing at this point. We still haven't seen him do anything. So I don't even really want to throw his name in there, but at least you would like to have seen if he could do something for you. He's injured yet again. This Bears team has struggled at the skill positions to just have the assortment of talent that you need in this league to be successful. I'm looking out there. You lose your best receiver, arguably your best receiver, in the first game of the season, or it might have been the third preseason game versus the Titans, one or the other, which was just a terrible loss. And I want to say it was the third preseason game where you lose. I can't even remember his name, but he had a hell of a season last year. It was a breakout year for him, and he stepped up big. And they had big plans for him. Cameron Meredith is who I was referring to, and you lose him in like the third preseason game versus the Titans. And so now all of a sudden this receiving group led by Deontay Thompson, that doesn't scare anybody. Kendall Wright, I like him a lot. I think he's probably the best receiver you got. And I actually like Deontay Thompson when he's not one of your top two options. If he was like your third or fourth option on this team, that'd be fine by me. But the fact that he's a starting receiver and starring role on this team speaks volumes to the lack of talent that you have out wide. There's not a lot of talent at the receiver position for this team. Marcus Wheaton is a third, fourth option at best, and he's doing much of nothing right now. The tight end position, which I thought would be a huge pro for this team, hasn't really amassed much production this year. Hasn't amounted to much. Deion Sims hasn't done much of anything. I haven't seen much of Adam Shaheen, your rookie, out of Ashland. And then I thought Zach Miller still would be able to produce at a high level. I really haven't seen much of him in this season either. So I thought with the lack of talent at receiver, these tight ends would be starring in this offense, trying to get them the football. And I just haven't seen that. Really, it seems like the only guy that is a difference maker on the offensive side is Tariq Cohen. And you could also throw Jordan Howard in the mix. When he's running the football well, he offers you something out of the backfield. But other than those two guys, you really lack the ability to scare the other team. And so right now, they don't have enough weapons on the offensive side of the football. And to ask a young guy like Mitchell Trubisky to come into a situation like this where he's not, and again, maybe he would provide a spark. I'm not saying that's out of the realm of possibility, but I don't think that he would be able to come in and elevate a team that just isn't very good. When you look at, they're getting better talent-wise, especially on the defensive side of football. I think this is a team that has enough talent defensively to be competitive, but they don't get enough pressure. I'm really disappointed in the maturation of Gumby because I thought he would be at a much better place right now. This time last year, if you remember this game against the Packers last year, he was dominant. I think he had 2.5 sacks, a forced fumble, a scoop and score in that game. Leonard Floyd was a problem last year as a rookie in this same game on a Thursday night versus the Packers where they had to dump it down. I think Aaron Rodgers had 962 checkdowns in that game. I remember very vividly Ty Montgomery had at least 13 to 15 catches in that game out of the backfield. It was a dump down show. And it was not impressive, but the Packers won that game going away. But it was a close game for like 3 quarters before the Packers pulled away in the fourth. And Leonard Floyd had a huge sack, forced fumble, scoop, and score in that game. And I said, this guy's coming. And it seems like he's regressed this year. He got his first sack tonight, but it wasn't on initial pressure right away, beat the guard, beat the tackle. It was on initial rush up the field. Rodgers steps up, then rolls out of the pocket, trying to buy time, and he's able to peel back, grab him, and get him down before he gets to the line of scrimmage. So the lack of pressure right now is really hurting this Bears football team. They got to get to the quarterback. They're not doing that. They're leaving that secondary out to dry. And you're seeing the end result. Aaron Rodgers was able to really pick them apart. And again, he didn't have to do a ton tonight. It's not like he threw for 340 yards in this game. I don't even think he threw for 200 yards in this game, if I'm not mistaken. He didn't have to. It was that type of night where the Bears made a ton of mistakes. And, you know, they didn't really push this Packers football team. They were able to stay relatively balanced, hand it off. And when he needed to, he threw it. And he fouled receivers, and they scored touchdowns. So it was a solid night for this Packers offense. And, again, I don't think this Bears football team it needs to switch at quarterback. If you can make Mike Glennon look serviceable, you may be able to flip him for something. You know, you spent money on him. Why not try to get something back in return? Yeah, there'll be some dead money on the cap, but at least you could say I got an asset out of the deal. But right now, with the way he's looking, hard to see anyone trading anything for him. I still think he can actually play in this league as a starter, a marginal one at best. He's not an upper tier starter or anything like that, but I think he's a guy that can start if you put the pieces around him. I mean, you saw at times he was extremely accurate tonight, and guys just didn't help him out. It's a wet night. I get it. It's not the most ideal conditions to throw the football in, but no excuses. Ball's thrown to you, hits you in both hands, you need to catch it. And he's dealt with some of that this year. He's had some tough luck, some situations where, you know, things didn't work out, especially that Atlanta game final drive. He made some great throws in that game. Guys got to catch it. You win that game if they're able to catch the football. They don't catch the ball, you don't win the game. So in any event, I don't think it's time for Mitchell Trubisky just yet. I think as you get deeper into the season and this season is lost and at one point you'll probably be 2-8, yeah, then it's Mitchell Trubisky time. You can let him start the final 6. Preferably 4 games is what you want to see him play at the end of the season. If Glennon can make it that far. At some point, though, I think he's going to get some pressure from the front office to play the young guy, and he's going to have to put him in there. And so we may see him sooner rather than later. But for me, I think John Fox is doing the right thing because, again, I don't see Mitchell Trubisky coming in and elevating this football team with the lack of talent. I just don't. The one thing you want to get him is experience. And you can get him that at the end of the season when it's garbage time, essentially. But you don't need to get him that right now. Get him killed, get him crushed, have guys drop the football, have him lose confidence, have him trying to do too much. That's the one thing you don't want to see a young guy do, is try to do too much, start making mistakes, start having mechanical issues because now you're going out of your comfort zone. You're going out of your way to try to make plays because you see the rest of the guys on the team aren't as good. So now you're trying to pick up the slack for them. You start making mistakes. You start seeing things and doing things that aren't accustomed to you. Next thing you know, he's not the same guy you drafted out of North Carolina that looked so good in the preseason. So I don't sign off. I don't co-sign putting him in this early. Allow Glennon to play, give you a shot in some of these games. You don't get it done. You get to week 12. You want to make the switch, knock yourself out. In any event, defensively, like I said, just really disappointing that they can't get more pressure on the quarterback. I thought the run defense was solid in this game. They didn't give up any big runs. They didn't allow, and really they've been really solid against the run all season long. They didn't give up any big runs versus Tampa in that blowout. They didn't give up any big runs to Le'Veon Bell last week. They've done a really good job against the run. Devontae Freeman didn't kill him in the first game, actually really held him down. So they've done a really good job against the run, where my biggest gripe with them right now is getting to the quarterback. They're not going to generate a ton of turnovers if they can't get to the quarterback. Teams are going to be able to throw the football against that Bears secondary. And now you got guys out like Quentin Demps out, so now Adrian Amos is back in there. Teams are going to take advantage of situations. I just feel like you got to get pressure. And if that means blitzing, so be it. There was a hit in this game by Danny Trevathan. A lot of people thought it was a dirty hit. I didn't think it was illegal necessarily. Obviously, it's helmet to helmet, so you got to throw the flag. And that was unnecessary. They're trying to get those types of hits out of the game. He could have came with his shoulder. It still would have been to his head, and it still probably would have been violent. But the fact that he ducked his head, made helmet-to-helmet contact, and knocked him out upon impact. I mean, he was out before he hit the ground. Everyone knew right away. Mouthpiece went flying. He was out cold as the hit was initiated. Everyone was calling for the doctors to come over because they knew he was out cold immediately. And so those are the type of hits you want to see out of the game. That's what they're trying to legislate out of the game. Obviously, he's going to be fined. That was definitely an illegal hit just because of the helmet-to-helmet nature. I didn't think it was like a type of hit that, and my man Sean Mack was like, yo, he needs to be ejected. I didn't think he needed to be ejected from the game, but definitely flagged, and he's going to get fined. And those are the type of hits you want to see removed from the game. Obviously, it's hard for a defensive player. Devontae Adams was being tackled. You know, he lowers his head, and Trevathan comes in. He lowers his head. Again, that could have been avoided, though. It's not like this guy was running away and you're trying to hit him or you're trying to dislodge him from the football as he's catching it. He was already in the grasp of one of his Bears teammates. He didn't need to come over with a vicious helmet-to-helmet shot on him. So, again, I thought that the penalty fit the crime. He was penalized. It led to a Packers touchdown, and he's going to get fined. So, in any event, Bears make too many mistakes in this game. At the end of the day, 4 turnovers, 2 Glennon interceptions. Both of them looked like the result of either pressure, really a combination of pressure. Maybe the ball slips out of his hand, but those balls sailed on him. Both of them. Both interceptions looked exactly the same. Overthrows on guys that looked like they might have been open over the middle of the field, and a better throw maybe gets it there. The second one looked more like, oh, I'm trying to get it over a defender. The first one, there was no one that he needed to get it over. He just airmailed it. The second one, you could see a defender there that he was trying to get the football over, and I just think it slipped out of his hand. He didn't put that football where it needed to be, and it sailed on him, and it got picked off by Kentrell Brice. So, in any event, 4 turnovers on the road. You don't get any back in your favor, so you lose the turnover battle 4-0. You have a ton of penalties. That's not winning football, especially on the road. This team, they look light years different on the road. In their 2 home games, they could have easily won both of them against, like I said, teams that I consider Super Bowl contenders in 2017. Meanwhile, on the road, you get dismembered, all right, disassembled by 2 teams that you didn't even look like you belonged on the same field against in Tampa Bay and now Green Bay. So that's the mark of a young team that is still trying to figure things out, not being able to go on the road and even be competitive. The Bears have not been competitive in 2 road games this season. So let's get to your comments before we get out of here. Dark Sealer 1995 says, Giraffe Neck isn't a good quarterback by any means, but the receivers are awful, and the offensive play calling is atrocious. I don't understand why you would use bootlegs with a stand-in-the-pocket quarterback. Just to give the defense another look. I mean, you don't want him to just be stationary in the pocket. You do want him to change the launching location. You know, you don't want him to be standing. Look, the last thing you want for a quarterback that is really immobile like Glennon is, you want to change the address sometimes. You don't want him standing at the same address every single time so the defense knows exactly where to find him. You want to change the launching point so that, you know, the defense has to at least account for that. The fact that he can't get out the pocket and throw it, you know, outside the tackle box, you know, give them some looks. You're running the football effectively last week against Pittsburgh. You want to take advantage of that with some play action fakes and some bootlegs. So, you know, this is a team that is run dominant right now. And you want to take advantage of that by running some bootlegs, getting him out of the pocket, and running some play action fakes. So those things are necessities in the offense. And I agree, right now he's not looking like the best quarterback. But I've seen him look sharp this season. In that Tampa Bay game, that first drive before he throws an interception, he was outstanding on that drive. And then he makes one bad read on a throw. It gets picked off, and I thought that took all of the confidence out of his sails in that football game. In this game, they're moving the football down the field. Okay? After the first fumble, they're moving the football down the field. He looks sharp. They're moving it right down the field, and then they have the fumble, and it's like that took the air out of their sails yet again. And after that, the only other drive that I thought he looked sharp on was the one right before the half, and he can do that. That drive right before the half, that drive, that's what Mike Glennon is. That's what he can be in this league, and that's why I still believe that he can start for a team. If they have talent, he can start for a team. I've seen Mike Glennon play good football before. And so I like what I've seen out of him in spurts. The lack of consistency is frustrating, obviously, but they don't have a lot of, you said it yourself, their wide receiver talent is awful. I mean, I've documented that tonight. You saw it with your own two eyes if you watch this game. There's not a lot of stuff out there for him to operate with. So to judge him on some of the things that happen, it's really frustrating and almost unfair to a certain degree. Keeban says, Danny Trevathan's ban, how long you think? I don't think he's going to get suspended. I don't think he has a history. If he had a history of these types of malicious hits, then yeah, he probably gets suspended. I don't think he's going to get suspended. He's going to get fined, and they're going to move on. If this is his second or third offense in this type of manner, then yeah, he might get suspended for a game or two. But I don't see it happen. We'll see what happens. But Devontae Adams, just to go a step further and update you on his situation and status, he's got movement in all extremities. He's conscious, and he's going to be fine. So that's good news. You never want to see a guy leave the field on a stretcher, but he gave us the thumbs up, which was a great sign. And then we later got word that he has movement in all his extremities, and he is conscious. So that's great as well. Reese says, simply put, Aaron Rodgers is unbelievable. I've never seen anybody throw the football like this man. He never ceases to amaze. The thing that always makes me stop and stare in awe of Aaron Rodgers is the fact that he can throw the football on the move better than I've ever seen a quarterback throw the football. It's a tight spiral every time. I can't think of many times where I didn't see Aaron Rodgers throw a tight spiral one with the velocity of a 99, 101 mile an hour fastball. And it's just amazing. There was a throw against Cincinnati last week for a touchdown to Jordy Nelson in the corner, the front pylon corner of the end zone, and the defender is right there, and he dives and he misses the football because it's just got too much sauce on it. Mind you, Aaron Rodgers is scrambling out of the pocket, throwing off of 1 foot, and he throws a 99 to 101 mile an hour fastball with hot sauce to go in the most perfect spot that you could throw that football, where only his receiver can catch it, low and away for a touchdown to tie the game up. I mean, this guy is ridiculous. He's absolutely ridiculous. Enrique Valencia says, Danny Trevathan with one of the most dirtiest hits I've ever seen should get at least a 4-game ban. I don't think he's going to get suspended. It was a dirty hit. It was an illegal hit. There's no place in football for that. That's one of the hits they're trying to legislate out of the game, but I didn't think it was worthy of him getting thrown out of this game, and I don't think he's going to get suspended. But it was not something that needs to be done on a football field. Dark Sealer 1995, put the giraffe on the bench. What can Trubisky learn from him? The best learning experience is starting. I agree with that. The fact that you can only get better as a quarterback from playing. There's only so many mental reps that you can take. But there is a fine line between putting a guy out there and having him become damaged goods and allowing a guy to sit and wait until the time is right. With some quarterbacks, if there were no Mike Glennon, he'd already be starting. I get that. I understand that. And it'd be a different dynamic. But teams start quarterbacks right out the gate because they have to, because they are the best option. The only team that we saw have a quarterback and say, you know what, we're going to start our rookie was the Eagles last year. And they did it because the Vikings knocked their socks off with the offer of a first-round pick when they had already given away their first-round pick to get Wentz. They said, we got a chance to get back into the first round because their quarterback, Teddy Bridgewater, has gone down, and they need a starting quarterback desperately, and they're offering up a first-round pick for Sam Bradford. Hell yeah, we'll take that. So that's why Wentz started. If that didn't happen, Wentz wouldn't have started. Look what he's done. Obviously, more talent on that Eagles football team, but they also had a nice scheme set up for him to succeed. But that was out of necessity. He started. He wasn't going to start that season had Bradford been available. Okay? Normally when rookie quarterbacks start very early in their career, it's out of necessity. Blake Bortles was not supposed to start in his rookie season. He started out of necessity because Chad Henne got injured in like week 2 or 3 of that season, and voila, he had to come in. And you saw what happened to him. He was damaged goods. He should not have been playing early. And that's him and Derek Carr to me or David Carr to me are the two prime examples of starting a quarterback way too soon and having them not reach their full potential because they were damaged when they started too early and they were really never able to recover from that. Blake Bortles still has time. And you see what he can be when he's confident. That's the one thing I don't want Mitchell Trubisky to do is come in and lose confidence. He's a confident guy right now. You saw it in the preseason. You come in, you have him come in early in this season, get his ass whooped. There's some tough games. I know you saw. There's some tough games coming up on that schedule. You put him up against that Minnesota Vikings defense twice and see if they don't tear him a new asshole. He's going to lose some confidence against a team like that twice. You put him in against Detroit twice. That's a ferocious defense that can get after it. You tell me that he may not lose some confidence in that ball game as well. You know, there's a chance that he goes up against a Carolina Panthers defense at some point that may be able to get to him and rattle him, force him into some mistakes. There's no reason to put him in those types of situations this early in his career when you don't have to, when you got a guy that can start and bridge that gap for you until he's ready. I just don't understand everyone's rush to want to see the young fella when you don't have to do it yet. He'll play at some point this year. I can guarantee you that. At some point this season, Mitchell Trubisky will get experience, and then he'll be ready to start in his sophomore year. What's the rush to seeing him now and putting him in harm's way? He'll get experience eventually. Trust me. Doesn't have to be right now. Doesn't need to be right now. It will come. Either by injury or just because this team isn't good and they'll be out of the playoff race and you've got plenty of time to play him. He'll play in either 4 to 6 games this season. Start 4 to 6 games. And you'll get to see plenty of Mitchell Trubisky then. But right now, it's not necessary. Reese says, I'd happily welcome Mike Glennon back to the Bucs sideline. I know you would. And a lot of teams would take him as a backup quarterback. I think he wants to start. And I'd like to see him get a great opportunity. I really feel bad for him because he feels the pressure of Trubisky behind him. No doubt about it. Every time he makes a mistake, there's probably a little bit of a sense of, let me look over my shoulder and see if they're coming with the hook. Obviously, John Fox is trying to instill confidence in him that, hey, you go out there and play the game the way it's supposed to be played. Don't worry about making mistakes. You're not coming out. You're my starting quarterback. And that feels good. That sounds nice. But we all know the way this game works. We know the business of the NFL. You don't trade 4 picks to move up to get a guy only for him to sit on the bench and rot. It's not what this league is about. When the Chargers traded for Phillip Rivers, Drew Brees knew his time was up in San Diego with the Chargers. He knew, doesn't matter how good I play. And remember, the year before he left for New Orleans, he had a hell of a season before he hurt his shoulder late in that season. He could have easily been back in San Diego on a brand new contract had they not had a young quarterback waiting in the wings. But he knew his time was up in San Diego. They weren't going to bring him back because you don't draft a guy that early and let him sit on the bench. That's why a lot of people thought, okay, Trevor Simeon's not going to win the job in Denver because you don't draft the first-round quarterback for him to sit on the bench. But I never thought Paxton Lynch was going to be very good. I never had confidence in Lynch. I still don't have great confidence in Paxton Lynch. I thought he was a work in progress. Now, he's got all the talent. You know, he's got the size, he's got the arm, he's got some athleticism, but he played in an offense that was so pedestrian in college that I just wondered, can he make the transition to NFL offense and reading defenses? He didn't have to do that at Memphis. Everything was short and immediate. And so we know that Mitchell Trubisky is going to get a chance to play. It's basically what I'm saying. And I'd like to see Glennon get a real opportunity where he doesn't have to look over his shoulder. He's the guy, and he's actually got some talented players around him. I'd like to see him get an opportunity. I'd like to see him go to somewhere like the Jets. I think the Jets actually have some pieces. Jermaine Kearse. They've got the skinny kid that can run. Robbie Anderson. They've got some guys that can do some things. If Forte was healthy, they'd actually have a semblance of a run game. I'd like to see him go somewhere where they've got a defense like they do in New York. They can play a little bit of defense. He doesn't have to go out and win the game. Yet, you know, there's some pieces around that will allow you to do some things and give him an opportunity. That's not going to happen in Chicago. Mondraw says, as a GM, I wouldn't risk my young quarterback, my future young quarterback in a game with a bad coach that will only make him lose confidence. I don't think John Fox is a bad coach. That I disagree with you on. I do agree with you that it's not necessary to risk him this early, but John Fox is not a bad football coach. I do not agree with you there. Cloud says, why does Fox refuse to play Trubisky? I've already explained that. Dark Sealer 1995 says, John Fox is the Chuck Pagano of the NFC, always looking clueless on the sidelines, always clueless in the postgame. That may be true, but I can tell you John Fox gets his team prepared to play. John Fox, wherever he has gone, winning has followed. This may be one of the few stops that he makes. I saw this man take Tim Tebow, win 8 games in a playoff game on the road, or won a playoff game versus the Pittsburgh Steelers at home. Like, come on, man. Stop. This man went to a Super Bowl with Jake Delhomme at quarterback, man. Come on. Stop, man. John Fox is a winner. This is probably going to be one of his few opportunities where he doesn't turn a franchise into a winner, because before he got to Carolina, they weren't a winning franchise. He made them a winner. When he left there and went to Denver, they weren't a winning outfit at that point. He made them a winner. I think that John Fox is a winner, but this team just doesn't have enough talent right now. Give him more talent, I guarantee you John Fox would turn that Bears team into a winning outfit. Ouija HTTR says, I know you tweeted, he said, I know I tweeted you about the hit, but what are your thoughts on the Adams hit? Was the flag just due to the fans going off? Adams was a runner at that point. Yeah, he was a runner, but the helmet-to-helmet contact, he literally used the crown of his helmet as a weapon. And that's where the flag came in. When you're a runner, you can protect yourself, but in that situation, there was no need for helmet-to-helmet contact of that nature. Literally using the crown of your helmet to spear another player. That's why he was knocked out upon impact. Literally, crown of helmet to the jaw of Adams put him down for the count immediately before he even hit the ground. Like I said, there's no place in football for that. So that's where the penalty comes in. That's why he's going to be fined, and that's why you heard a couple of viewers up here saying that they think he should be suspended. I don't think he will, but we'll see what happens. The Soundwave 92 says, do you think it's time for Trubisky to get some playing time after the way Glennon performed tonight? Nope, and I've already answered that. Dark Sealer 1995 says, the Pittsburgh Zoo called and they're looking for – y'all leave Long Neck alone, man. Y'all chill. Isaac Snook. I've been calling you Isaac this whole time, and I've read your comment when you left your picks. And that was hysterical. The comment that you left me, man. He said, it's 2 A's, not 2 S's. This whole time, I never once looked at that name and analyzed it. I just assumed it was Isaac, and I kept on going. I apologize for that, man. What's going on, man? He says, hope Devontae is all right. He is. He's going to be fine. You just hate to see guys take shots like that are so unnecessary. He also says these Thursday night games get people hurt. And that's why a lot of people don't like the Thursday night format, because a lot of guys that could play on Sunday but aren't healthy enough to go Thursday, they missed a game because of that. And then also you got guys that probably need some more rest, but they have to go. It's a Thursday game. The only good thing that comes out of these Thursday night games is the fact that you get 10 days of rest, sometimes 11. If you, in the case of the Bears, who will be playing on Monday night in Week 5, you get extra rest. It's almost like a form of a bye week. So, in any event, Enrique Valencia says, "Come on, Louie T. I tried to save you from Brock and you wouldn't listen. Now I'm trying to save you from Mike Glennon. He's a backup quarterback at best case scenario." No, like with Brock Osweiler, I really felt like if they would have put together a better game plan for him, he could have been successful in Houston. I'm not moving off of that. I think Bill O'Brien and their inability to tailor a game plan that better suited the talent that they had on their football team, first of all, because there was enough talent for him to be successful in Houston, and to fit the skill sets of Brock Osweiler and him being a first-year starter. Remember, that was his first time starting in the NFL, and it's a new playbook, it's new verbiage, everything's brand new. For them to do what they did to him, I thought they railroaded him. And he'll probably never be the same. The perception and the lack of confidence that he now has, and the perception around the league that he has, he stinks now. There's no going back. And that's what I don't want to happen to Mitchell Trubisky, is for him to have this initial, and again, with young quarterbacks, it's different. But remember, Brock Osweiler helped the Broncos win the Super Bowl. Like, people forget that so quickly. Without him coming in for that 4 to 6 game stretch when Peyton Manning was out, they don't win the Super Bowl. He was good. Went 2-2 in that stretch. Played some good football. Won some games on the road. Did some good things. I refuse to think that Brock Osweiler couldn't have done a better job if they would have tailored the game plan to his skill set and the weapons that they had around. I just thought they did an awful job. And I think the same can be said here for Glennon. I think, except they don't have the talent that they had in Houston with Osweiler. Osweiler legitimately had talented guys that if they would have put together a better game plan, I could have put together a better game plan for him week in and week out to help him succeed than what they were doing. Because the run game was working, and I thought that what they asked him to do in that offense was just god-awful, and it was a disservice to him, and it ended up getting him railroaded, and really he lost all confidence. He's not the same guy that he was in Denver once upon a time. And he'll probably gain some of that confidence back because I think he's in Denver now. And so it is what it is. But in terms of Glennon, look, man, I don't think this is going to be a great spot for him because of how they did him. Like, he immediately lost confidence the second that they invited him to the draft party, the draft day party, thinking that he was going to be the main attraction and that they were going to draft some hotshot defensive player or some great offensive skill guy, and instead they draft Mitchell Trubisky, and he had egg all over his face as he's out there at the field, at Soldier Field, shaking all these hands of fans. He gets blindsided and railroaded by the pick of a young quarterback, and how is he supposed to feel about that? He's been undermined before he even takes a snap as a Chicago Bears starting quarterback. It's not a good situation for him, and the fact that they don't have a ton of talent doesn't bode well for him. I swear to you, if they were able to stay healthy, and I don't know what Kevin White would have been, but I know he's a talented guy that has more talent than any receiver that we've seen on the field for the Bears this season. And if they would have still had Cameron Meredith, he would be in a much better situation. I guarantee you that. So, yeah, for what it's worth, it doesn't matter. Sean Mack says, Aaron just said on the live press conference that Danny said he didn't mean to hit him like that. And that's why I said it doesn't deserve a suspension. Danny Trevathan wasn't looking to decapitate this man. It just so happened that the way Devontae was being took to the ground, and obviously as a human, your human response, a natural response, is to duck your head when you see someone coming. Trevathan put his head down, and it just turned into a really bad situation. He didn't mean to do that. That wasn't his intent. You know, we've seen guys who are dirty players like Vontaze Burfict, where you like, man, he meant to do that. That's not what this was. So I don't know. But Sean Mack also says that was pure lead of the crown of the helmet to the head. It was. I can't disagree with that. It wasn't a natural hit. It's not something that, like I said, doesn't have a place in this game. Isaac Snook says, when do you think Trubisky should start? Like I said, he'll start later on in the season. I'd say somewhere around week 10 to 12 is when you'll probably, and I don't know when the Bears' bye week is, but the later it is, the better it is for him to start. And let's say they got a week 10 bye, and I don't know when their bye is. Let's say they got a week 10 bye. He should start in week 11. Let's say they got a week 11 bye. He should start in week 12. Let's say they got a week 9 bye. He should start in week 10. If they've got a late season bye, you start them the week after. That'll give you a chance to get a game plan in place, get them comfortable, get them some practice reps, and get him up to speed on what you're looking for from him. And that'll give him a better chance to succeed. It'll be later on in the season. You know you're not going to have a chance to do anything of note. At that point, now you can start playing for the future and see what guys are going to be on this roster next year, and you're going to see what Trubisky can do then. And that's when I think you put him in there. PD Pablo says, coming for that ass this week, believe it. Okay. I look, I'm from Missouri, man. Show me. I don't deal with all the talking. Show me. All right. I do this. So if you're coming for me, I'll be here. You know where to find me. I'm not going nowhere. If you're coming for me, come on. I'm here. Sean Mack says, Bradford is out for the Detroit versus Minnesota game. I saw that today. I still like the Vikings at home, even though I don't love Case Keenum and I don't expect him to duplicate what he did last week. This isn't Tampa Bay, but I still like this Vikings defense against Matthew Stafford. I still think they have a shot at home to get it done. And so we'll see what happens. But this Bradford injury is a lot more serious than I thought it was. And that's the problem with Sam Bradford, man. That's the story of his career. He can't stay healthy. Dark Sealer 1995 says, shouldn't the Bears game GM be on a hot seat? The recent first-round picks like Floyd and White look like busts. And you paid Glennon a ton of money, and you could have gotten Hoyer for cheaper. Ryan Pace is their GM. And I actually like Ryan Pace. Came over from New Orleans. I don't know if – I won't call Floyd a bust. He's only in his second year. I hate when we are so quick to jump to conclusions on players at such a young point of their career. Some guys don't mature until their third or fourth year in their rookie contract. Everyone doesn't mature at the same rate. You can't look at one pass rusher and say he got 10 sacks last year, like Danielle Hunter, who I think had like 11 and a half sacks for the Vikings in his rookie season, and say, why isn't he doing it? Because everybody doesn't mature at the same rate, you know, and sometimes guys aren't being used correctly, and maybe it takes another guy to come in and see his skill set and say, no, you were being used incorrectly. This is how you should be used. Or maybe he just needs to figure out, how do I win in this league consistently? Maybe he needs to carve out a niche for himself. I refuse to call Leonard Floyd a bust. I'm disappointed because I thought I saw flashes of a guy that could be a menace as a pass rusher last year. I haven't seen that yet to start this season, and that's a little disappointing for me. But in any event, the Kevin White, I can't defend that. White hasn't stayed healthy, and it's always frustrating when you see a young guy and you know he's talented, but he can't stay healthy, and so you haven't really had a chance to see that talent manifest itself into anything. It's tough luck, you know, when you draft players and for whatever reason they're not performing or they can't stay on the field. And so, I mean, I look at Scott McCloughan, Redskins ex-GM, and if you look at some of his picks, a lot of people were looking at him like this guy was the second coming of Joe Gibbs or for us as Redskins fans, Bobby Beathard, or even Charlie Casserly. You know, when we were in our heydays and we were winning Super Bowls with those general managers who constructed Super Bowl winning teams. But if you look at his drafts, really, Josh Doxson just made his first big play. I mean, if you want to count the one he made last year against Dallas, go right ahead. But he scored his first NFL touchdown, and injuries have derailed his career to start. A lot of people were down on him. Sua Craven's a second-round pick from last year's draft, isn't on the team right now, and may not play another snap for the Washington Redskins. He claims he wants to come back next year. We'll see. But you're talking about the first-round pick from last year and the second-round pick from last year, not really amounting to much thus far. And if you go through that draft, it's been an utter and abject disaster thus far. Do you call Scott McCloughan a bad GM because of that? No. And so I think sometimes it's just tough. You evaluate talent, you bring guys onto your team, and you hope that they're able to stay healthy, one, because, again, the best ability is availability. If you're not available, then, again, you can't show off your natural abilities and your God-given talents. But you can't help getting hurt every year. You can't help that you broke your collarbone this year, or that you tore your ACL, or that you did something else to your leg or your foot, and it's frustrating, but it is what it is. I don't think that their GM, Ryan Pace, needs to be fired. I think that's always the knee-jerk reaction. Everybody wants to fire everybody. Again, people are always looking for instant gratification. When he took over this Bears roster, it was bad. He had to gut this roster and start over, and they're building talent slowly. Not as fast as you would like. Chicago isn't the best free agent destination. Guys aren't clamoring. Guys aren't banging down the Bears' door to come to Chicago to play. You're not going to get a ton of free agents to come to Chicago to play for your football team. So because of that fact, you got to go the draft route. And it's a hit or miss draft, and that's the thing is you want to have a high hit rate of draft picks, especially your first 2 rounds, 3 rounds really, but you can never tell, how it's going to go. I mean, look, they got a quality left tackle in Charles Leno Jr. out of the 7th round. I mean, that's a gem you unearthed there. A starting left tackle in the 7th round? The Seahawks can't get a starting left tackle in any round. Yet they were able to get one out of Boise State in the 7th round, but you want to fire the GM? I don't buy that. I mean, it's hit or miss in the draft. It is. It's a crapshoot. You don't know who's going to be good, who's going to be able to stay healthy. You just don't know. So I don't agree with that. Isaac Snook says, I had to look at those picks and was wondering if I had a cousin or something named Isaac with 2 S's. When I saw that, all I could do was laugh, man. I didn't even pay attention to what I was doing, man. I apologize. I really do. Sean Mack says, I'm sure that $18 million he'll get this season when it's all said and done makes that pill much easier to swallow, bro. No doubt. But this is the thing. Even though he's getting paid, he's a competitor. He still wants to start. Nobody wants, okay, I won't say nobody. Most quarterbacks don't want money to sit on the bench. I'm pretty sure, if I probably shouldn't be in the league and I'm getting a free check, I should just shut up and stay behind Peyton Manning for 10 years like Jim Sorgi did, or Todd Collins did in Kansas City behind Trent Green, and Jim Kelly for all those years. If you're one of those guys, you just shut up and take a paycheck because you're not a starting quarterback. And when people see you play for real, when you actually have to hit the field like Jim Sorgi did that year that Peyton Manning got injured and everybody says, what is this guy doing in the league? He's Peyton Manning's backup for 5 or 6 years. And nobody knew and I knew he couldn't play, but nobody knew he couldn't play because Peyton Manning was healthy. And then when he finally had the neck injury and Sorgi had to play, and everybody says, this guy is awful. What is he doing in the league? He was out of the league like that. That's not this situation. Mike Glennon can play in this league. And he wants to play. No one wants to be a backup quarterback when you think you are a starter in this league. Yeah, the $18 million makes that blow a lot easier to cushion. But make no mistake about it, he wants to play. He wants to prove that he deserves that money, not that he's getting his money as a charity case. He doesn't want to be another Brock Osweiler like everybody, oh, he's stealing this money. No one wants to feel like they're stealing money, even though I'm not giving you nothing back. You pay me that money and you don't like the product that I put out on the field, too bad. It's a failed investment, but make no mistake about it. No one wants to hear that they stole money. Even though you didn't steal anything, they gave you that money because they thought you could perform and you didn't. But yeah, it's definitely going to make it a lot easier for him to stomach. But trust and believe, the man wants to play, and I don't blame him. Snook says, no one likes Longneck. He did a decent job with the Bucks. Then they signed McCown, and then they draft Winston. Now the Bears draft Trubisky. I don't think he gets along with front offices or something. I don't think that's the case. I just think teams look at him and they feel like a lot of people have said that he's a backup. He's good, but we don't think he's a franchise quarterback. And that's a fair assessment. I don't think he's a franchise quarterback. I think he can start for a team. I don't think he's a franchise quarterback. I don't think you build your franchise around Mike Glennon. Okay, I think he's the type of guy that he can start for your team for 2 to 3 years. And in the case of the Jets, Todd Bowles is going to get fired this year because he doesn't have a quarterback. McCown is okay, but at some point he's going to get hurt. He always does. And then one of those young bums are going to have to come in. They're going to stink it up. They're going to lose a ton of games, and he's probably going to get fired because he doesn't have a competent quarterback. If Mike Glennon were in New York right now, Todd Bowles would win at least 6 games, possibly 8 this year. I truly believe that because the defense is good enough in New York, and I think they have enough stuff. At first I said, man, they don't have nothing at receiver. When they went out and traded for Jermaine Kearse, that was their concerted effort to at least get something out there. Now I think he gives them an opportunity. I just don't think that I don't think teams feel like Glennon is the answer at quarterback. And that rightfully may be the case. But at this point, when I look around the league and I see teams starting guys like DeShone Kizer, like Josh McCown in New York with the Jets, I feel like there's a place in this league somewhere for Mike Glennon. Even if it's as a bridge gap starter, there's a place in the league for Mike Glennon. Cloud says, Kevin White's body is made of glass. Facts. Cloud says, didn't Bradford play 16 games last year? He did, which was remarkable, which is a rarity for him, which makes this all the more frustrating this season that he plays the game that he played in week 1 versus the Saints where this guy was short of perfect, just short of perfect. And we didn't even see the injury that he sustained in the game. And now he's out for the 3rd consecutive game this week versus the Lions. So, Sean Mack says, does anyone really consider Bonds hitting 73 home runs in 2001 as the record? It is on paper, but that mofo juiced when he was already a great player. Moron. Hashtag moron. Now, I don't think anybody really gives that record real credence. That's one of those asterisk records. I love what John Carlos Stanton is doing right now, but we'll see how far he's able to go. I think there are at least 3 or 4 more games left in the season. I want him to get to at least 60. He's at 59 right now. We'll see what happens. Dark Sealer 1995 says, what's your biggest disappointment with the Bears team this season? Love your after-game analysis, by the way. Keep up the amazing work, man. I appreciate that. My biggest disappointment with the Bears right now would be 2 things. One on both sides of the football. The lack of weaponry at the offensive side of the football at the receiver position. It's so disappointing to see who he's throwing the football to right now. And again, some of that is just happenstance. You know, guys getting injured. You can't predict that that Cameron Meredith is going to tear his ACL in the 3rd preseason game, and you can't predict that Kevin White's going to shatter his collarbone in the 1st game of the season. So, you know, you put yourself in a really bad spot now with the lack of weapons. I don't think they're utilizing these tight ends enough because you got talent at tight end. That probably might be your best position after running back, you know, on the offensive side. And I don't think they're using them enough. But that's the biggest disappointment on that side. On the defensive side, I already told you what my biggest disappointment, the lack of pressure on the quarterback. I thought they would be able to get to the quarterback a little bit better than they have. I thought Pernell McPhee and Floyd and Goldman and Akeem Hicks might be your best pass rusher. He's a defensive tackle. Like, I just thought the collection of those guys would be able to get to the quarterback. They don't have a guy off the edge that scares you right now. And I thought that guy would be Leonard Floyd, and he's not right now. And that's fine. He may become that guy down the line, but right now he's not. And they need someone to step up as a pass rusher. They don't have that guy right now. And maybe it is going to end up being Floyd in the long run, but this defense can't take a huge step forward if they can't get to the quarterback because they're not going to generate turnovers. This is not a generate turnovers type of defense unless you can get to the quarterback, speed up their process, and make them make some mistakes, and you're not getting that right now. Drew True Statement says, Floyd isn't a bust. Give him more time. I agree. I agree with that first statement. Before I read the rest of your comment, I couldn't agree with you more. And I hate when people do that, jump to the conclusion in a guy's 2nd year. Come on, man. Guy's in his 2nd year. How can we use the B word already? It's asinine to me. White, on the other hand, is borderline bust. Even when he has played, he hasn't been productive. I agree with that statement as well. Let's finish up your comment. I think Pace has one more year on the hot seat, and I agree with that as well. I think Pace needs at least one more year to try to fix this thing in Chicago. I think he's doing some quality things. He's trying. He's trying. It's tough when guys that you draft in the first 2 rounds aren't amounting to much. That hurts because those are supposed to be big-time contributors for your football team. And when those guys don't pan out for you, it sets your franchise back. First and second round picks have to work in order for your team, to grow and prosper at the rate that it's supposed to. When first and second round guys don't hit, that's a problem. And so I think that's where you're seeing a lack of true talent on this Bears football team, is because their early round draft choices aren't amounting to what they were expecting from those guys. But I agree with that whole statement, Drew. That is literally a true statement. Sean Mack says, breaking news, Luis Ortiz tested positive for banned substance. Does that surprise you? He's already tested positive once. Does that surprise you? Was he supposed to fight the bronze bomber? Wasn't he supposed to fight I can never remember his name. You know who I'm talking about, though, Matt. That was going to be a good fight. Yeah, Wilder. There you go. You put it in the comment. He was supposed to fight Deontay Wilder. Damn. I really wanted to see Wilder fight someone good because that's the one knock on him, is that he hasn't fought anybody yet. And that was going to be his best test to date, and that would tell me if he was ready for Anthony Joshua or not. Now we got to see him fight. He's going to fight some other step-in bum, beat him up, and I still will question. I don't think he can beat AJ anyway, so whatever. Schnook says, I want to see the Jets next year resign McCown, sign Brian Hoyer, Osweiler, and Glennon to have a battle of the fittest with their quarterbacks. Nah, that'd be the worst. You really trying to get McCagnon fired then. Dark Steel in 1995 says, Jordan Howard keeps playing with that bum shoulder even though he has to come out of games he's playing in. I love his toughness, but tell the young guy to sit and rest till he's healthy. He's a warrior, man. I watched him injure that shoulder initially in week number 3 last week versus Pittsburgh, come out of the game like 5 times and still end up scoring the game-winning touchdown in overtime. We watched him deal with that pain tonight, come back in and score a touchdown late in the ball game. He's a warrior, man. Those are the kind of guys that you'll run through a wall with and go to battle with any day of the week. But I agree with you. At some point, when do you say enough's enough? Hey, we can ask Whoop 35-7. Why are you putting him back in the game? I know he wants to play. He wants to show his teammates that he's willing to fight with them to the bitter end. At some point, you got to say, hey, man, it ain't worth it. You know, we might be able to win next week versus Minnesota. And we don't want you doing any more damage to that shoulder. How about we let Benny Cunningham take the rest of these carries along with Cohen and you just sit down, man. I appreciate your toughness and your willingness to want to go out there and fight with your teammates. But we're going to go ahead and sit you down for the remainder of this game. But I love it anyway. Cloud says Kevin White maybe could bounce back. Sammy Watkins kind of had the same thing happening. But the difference is, like my man Drew True Statement said, is that he hasn't even been productive when he has been on the field. Like, there are games where he's on the field and you still don't know he's on the field. You're thinking, oh, he must still be hurt. No, he was out there. 2 targets, 1 catch, 2 yards. You're like, well, damn. He played the whole game. Yeah, he played the whole game. There was 48 offensive snaps. He played in 40 of them, and he only had 1 catch for 2 yards. That's the kind of garbage that Kevin White's been putting up. So, unlike Samuel Watkins, who we saw put up 1,000 yards in a season early in his career, we knew what this guy was about. He just couldn't stay healthy. I've always had confidence in Samuel Watkins' ability to get it done if he could stay healthy. That's not the case with Kevin White. I know he's got the talent, but I don't know he can get it done because I haven't seen him get it done. And you actually said that at the end of your comment. You said difference is Watkins has produced when he's healthy. Perfect. That's exactly right. Sean Mack says, nobody's beating AJ, bro. AJ on a whole nother level. Check out the October 14th card on Showtime, bro. It's completely stacked. I'm going to have to do that. AJ showed a lot when he took that shot from Klitschko and got up and picked himself up off the canvas and rallied to win that fight. That showed me a lot because it takes a lot. A lot of guys we've seen get hit and not be able to take a punch. Like the first time Roy Jones got hit, we realized Roy Jones can't take a punch. And we've seen that with a lot of great fighters over the years. The first time they really get hit and that chin gets tested and we realize, hey, they got a glass chin. The reason why they've been so great is because they've been able to avoid getting hit. And what happens, as my man Teddy Atlas say, in that moment of truth, where your ass get hit and you got cobwebs, and that moment of truth hits, and you got to be able to withstand that moment where anything could happen. You could get knocked out if you don't find a way to survive. AJ showed a lot by getting knocked down, and that was a serious punch that would have put down 95% of the heavyweights in that division, would have put them down for the count, and Klitschko would have been the champ. Instead, AJ got off the canvas and proceeded to knock him out, and for that, I say that man right now is the best heavyweight in the world, but we're going to see. Dark Silver 1995 says, I love this channel, man. You're my favorite. Thank you for everything. Hey, I appreciate that. I really do. Captain Spartan 04 says, I haven't heard much from Eddie Goldman this year. Is he okay? Yeah, he's fine, man. It's just Eddie is a solid football player. Last year, he was the best they had. I think Akeem Hicks might actually be better than Eddie right now, or at least playing at a higher level. But Goldman is fine. He would be much better served if they had an edge rusher that was applying pressure on quarterbacks. But they don't right now. So I think that's pretty much the biggest problem. LOL, I couldn't let you commit a double name whammy. Drew, true statement, not Drew. Formerly Andre Mogul. It's all good, though. I keep calling you Drew, man. I swear, Drew, true statement sounds so good, just flows, but it's Dre. True statement. I don't know what's up with me. I just take a look at the name and I just run with it, man. It sounds good to me. Like Isaac Schnook sounded good to me. It looked like it was, and I just ran with it. It's same with Drew, true statement. It just seemed like it fit together. I just saw DR and I ran with it. I apologize. Yeah, and okay, that's who you are, man. I didn't know. Y'all be switching up names on me and I don't even be knowing who I'm talking to, man. What's going on, Dre? Sean Mack says, Vitali's hands are like damn gorillas, bro. All 5 of my losses came by KO. AJ is the next superstar. I believe that's the case. And Snook says, happy for Kirk having a kid. I wonder if it will affect his performance. I think that's going to be something that's a load off of his shoulders, man. I think that's going to be I'm happy for him. He was blessed with a child, a boy. And so good for him, man. Happy it finally came because she was already past her due date anyway. So happy for him, man. Blessings. And yeah, man, maybe a little bit too much cooked crack. You might be right, Sean Mack. And with that, man, we gonna get out of here. It's almost 2 in the morning, man. Let y'all guys go to bed and get y'all some rest. I thank y'all for joining me on the program. As always, if it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here on the Louie T Network. Come back and join me as I continue to break down anything and everything in the National Football League. Packers get it done 35-14 over the Bears. Too many mistakes for the Bears. 4 turnovers, a ton of penalties, and not enough offensive production to overcome those mistakes. Bears drop to 1-3 on the season. Packers go to 3-1. Both of these teams will now have a nice long layoff. Packers, a ton of injuries leaving this game. They lose 2 running backs in this game, in Ty Montgomery and Jamal Williams. They also lose a receiver in Devontae Adams, who took a hellacious shot from Danny Trevathan and left the game on a stretcher. All extremities have movement, and he is conscious. Those are all good things and signs for him to get back on his feet. We're all glad to hear that. Josh Jones, their amazing young safety out of NC State, left this game. At one point, I believe he might have come back. He may not have come back. I saw a lot of Kentrell Bryce the remainder of the game, so I don't think he came back in this game. Don't know the extent of his injury. So did linebacker, shucks. I'm trying to think of his name from Stanford. Shucks. I can see his face. I can see his number. I Blake Martinez left this game with an injury. And so don't know the extent of his injury either. So a ton of guys left this game for the Packers. We'll see what happens. Hopefully those injuries aren't serious. And again, the 10 days that they will have between this and the Cowboys game is going to benefit them greatly to potentially get some of these guys back for that next game. In any event, I'm your man, Louie T, signing off. If you want to donate to the channel, you do so through PayPal. The link is in the description. I thank all of you for joining me on the program. As always, I'll see you guys on Sunday. Enjoy your weekend. You know I will. And we'll reconvene on Sunday. Have a good one. Take care. Thanks for joining me.